Well, that's a 19-year time span. And, in many ways, the company has some of the same attributes today as it did 19 years ago when I joined in 2003. It's always been a mission-driven company, which is serving the world's populations, providing connectivity, providing the enablement of all kinds of services and capabilities for mankind, really. It's always been engineering focused, driven by excellence in operations, as well as driven by innovation. So those things were part of the Intelsat DNA back 19 years ago, and it still is today. But in other aspects, it's very different, of course, because all organizations evolve and change and develop over time. And you have to remember, back in 2003, Intelsat was only 2 years away from its privatization event. Prior to 2001, it was an intergovernmental organization owned by the countries of the world. So I joined the company shortly thereafter. But I could see at that time the company was moving. It was trying to move forward and become more commercial, but it wasn't really commercial yet. And that was one of the reasons I joined. I had the opportunity to come in and help with that commercialization and the change of the organization. So, from that point to where it is now, it's dramatically different. We were just starting to get into managed services at that time. And of course, the internet boom was happening. And so there's a lot of opportunities for developing end-to-end services for customers. Shortly thereafter, we made acquisitions, first in some of the Loral assets in the US, and then the big merger with PanAmSat, which was transformational for the company, and became a provider of much more sophisticated services in the media sector, mobility, and other areas. And so there's been huge change in terms of what we deliver to customers. The quality expectations of many of the customers has risen over the time, and we've had to rise to that expectation. So it's evolved quite a bit, and many of the core aspects of the company are very much still there, but it has transformed into a really strong commercial organization over that period of time. It's something I've always tried to do and really see what great leaders have done and tried to emulate great leaders as much as I possibly could and use those ideas and approaches. For me, it starts with people. You have to have great people in an organization. And so getting the best people possible on the team, and then getting those individuals to lead and to develop leaders within an organization. It's not all about the CEO. It's not all about the CEO and the head of the organization making all the decisions. So getting leadership developed at all levels of the organization and really getting the most out of talent is really job one, I think. And it's really the fun part, actually, of management and leading, actually, because you see people develop and take on more and really grow over time when they have those opportunities. The second thing I would say, which is a close second, is providing a clear vision and a strategy for the team. People want to know and want to feel something and want to know where they're going. And it's critically important, regardless of the circumstance of the company, being able to lay out a roadmap and to help people see where we're going, what we're trying to achieve this year, next year, and over the long term. And to see how they can be part of that is absolutely essential. And then I guess the third thing would be, sometimes it's called pace setting. I call it sort of action, getting things done, making progress every day and every week, showing that the company and organization is moving forward. We're accomplishing things. We're doing new things for customers. We're developing new services. We're innovating different areas. And if you get that movement happening, that action happening, you really can see progress. And when people see progress, that feeds on itself. It motivates people. It gets them excited. We're actually moving forward and achieving things. And so I think those are the three things that come to mind for me in looking back on my time leading organizations and teams. I would say, first of all, regardless of the challenges that Intelsat has had over various times over the years, it's always been a great company. It's always had an important mission. It's always done some really great, exciting things for customers. It's always been innovation focused and moving forward. And so that attracts people. I mean, people want to be part of that, and they get motivated by that. And when we bring people in for interviews and they meet members of the team, the company sells itself in many ways, in terms of the people that are providing the energy for the company. But I go back to the things I just mentioned, which was that gets people into the organization. And then how do you keep them? You keep them by moving forward, by showing progress, by doing things that advances the organization. And so within Intelsat, we really didn't feel, of course, things could be better. There wasn't growth in the industry. We're carrying a lot of debt, but we actually kept the mindset of, okay, those are just given. Those are realities that we have to deal with. How do we keep the company moving forward? And so it didn't stop us from, moving ahead with the Intelsat Epic network. It didn't stop us from making many investments in services, an end-to-end type of managed services, or making small investments in some technology companies that we felt were important to help the ecosystem and help the company over time. We kept moving forward in space with, really becoming the first company that leveraged the mission extension vehicles in terms of extending the life of satellites. We advanced our work in 5G and our next generation networks. So throughout those challenging times, we always had a vision that we were going to keep moving the company forward. We were going to get to a better place. And that kept the team largely together for a lot of years and some challenging years. And so, we did not experience, turnover beyond what was the norm in the industry. And we were able to keep great talent and leaders on the team to get through all of this. And so, I think the resilience of the Intelsat team has been remarkable, and the ability to just keep moving, persevering, and going forward, even if there are challenges in particular businesses or with our financial structure, whatever it may be. It's really a strength of the team. Well, first of all, we're fortunate we have a board and ownership that recognized that in our business, you have to invest. You have to invest. CapEx is a reality, and if you don't invest, you're going to fall behind. That's just a basic rule of the satellite industry and telecom in general. Let's just say telecom. We also recognize that there were growth opportunities in various markets of ours that needed to have satellite services with higher capabilities, with better economics, and that would allow for smaller terminals in the design, right? And so those are the three aspects of Intelsat Epic that were really strong and really were important to us at the time. So it was absolutely critical that we were able to bring, higher performing services at a lower cost per bit that can get into smaller terminals to enable new applications. And so it was a must. And so we were able to incorporate the Intelsat Epic deployment within the retirement plan of other satellites. So we were able to keep certain orbital slots fresh and alive and maintain that continuity, but it allowed us to expand our services in several areas. And it was especially beneficial for mobility services, whether it's maritime or aeronautical services where it needed that higher performing capability, especially important for when we're serving remote and rural connectivity requirements, where having that higher performance, getting into a smaller terminal allows the economics to work much better for a mobile operator to serve remote communities and a bunch of other applications. I was giving a couple of examples. So it was important and really essential. And we're glad we did it, because if we hadn't done it, we would have had even more challenges. It was just essential. I think it's important for the company's future. I think it's important for the satellite industry's future, quite frankly. and reason I say that is that, historically, the satellite industry has been part of the telecom industry, but not part of the telecom industry. We've been sort of sitting to the side with a lot of proprietary custom networks that are closed and not open to the broader telecom infrastructure. And our feeling was that if we're going to open up the market and expand the market capability and expand the reach of satellite services and solutions, we had to be connected to the broader telecom market. And to make it easier to connect from terrestrial to satellite and vice versa, and to provide hybrid solutions. And the way to do that is to leverage standards, leverage software-defined capabilities, and to be able to achieve those goals. And interestingly, on the other side, on the telco side, in the telecom side, they were looking for satellite to come along. And I have two examples. I was on the Broadband Commission of the United Nations, and I'm sitting around the table at a couple times a year with a bunch of CEOs from the telecom operators, manufacturers, and others in government. And when we talked about satellite, they're saying, yeah, we need satellite. We need satellite to get to all of our subscribers that we can't get to. So, let's work together on this. The second thing was Intelsat was the first satellite operator to show up at the standards bodies. We went to an organization called ATIS, which is the North America member of the 3GPP group. And we were the first satellite operator to show up at a meeting. And they're saying, like, thank you. We're really happy to see you here. Let's start working together because we think we should be working together. And so it was validation. So, that's why we went in that direction. And, that investment is substantial. And I want to say, these investments we've been making in this next generation network have largely been while we're in Chapter 11. During our time in Chapter 11, we've put 4 software-defined satellites into the factory. We've been advancing all of our 5G work on the ground. And by the way, we see 5G as not just a terrestrial core network, but also over the satellite on an end-to-end basis. We made our acquisition of the Gogo commercial aviation business while we were in Chapter 11, because that's an important application and service area for this future network. So, it's really important. And I think that other satellite operators are coming along, I think, in the same sort of thinking. I think it's going to help expand the entire market for what we do. It's going to make the importance of satellite connectivity a reality and enable, all kinds of services that were possible, but more difficult to do in the past or today even. Well, it ties a little bit to what I was just talking about, the 5G push that we have. But I would, this was in the summer of 2017 when this came up. And it started with the notice of inquiry from the FCC. But beyond that, there was a huge amount of, I would say, energy within the wireless sector, within government and Capitol Hill. We need spectrum for 5G. It was a high priority. And at the time, I was thinking about this question about how do we work closer with the mobile operators in the industry, the telco industry. And I thought, okay, maybe this is an opportunity to do that, to gain some sort of closeness to that sector. And it was pretty clear that there was no way that the FCC or the US government was going to be deterred from getting a piece of the C-band spectrum. It was just going to happen. So the decision was, should we do what we've always done as a satellite industry and just say no, and just fight it? And we would have lost, and maybe had no compensation whatsoever in that process. Or do we say, is there another model that can be deployed or employed, I should say, that is more of a win-win, where the FCC achieves its policy objective, the US gains critical 5G spectrum for global competitiveness, the wireless operators get the need, and the satellite operators can protect the services that we have today with very important media customers across North America. That was the genesis of all of it. And I'm not going to claim that it was my idea. It came through conversations that we were having with Intel at the time, and our regulatory and spectrum teams, looked at it, and they came to me and the leadership team and said, "Hey, this is an interesting idea," and we talked about it quite a bit. And what we decided in the end, it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do for the industry, for the company, to protect our customers. And you're right, those very early days, we weren't very popular within the satellite industry, because we kind of went in a different direction. But soon enough, other operators came on board and recognized that yes, this is a reality, and so let's be part of it. Let's try to craft a win-win solution where we can be successful and participate in this and get the right outcome. And so far, it's proven to be excellent, an excellent outcome. We're through the first phase of the project. 120 megahertz has already been cleared, and mobile operators are deploying services. We've been compensated for that accelerated clearing, and now we're on to phase two to clear the full 300 megahertz. So it's a remarkable undertaking. And by the way, this project that's going on right now is a huge project. What we're doing, I mean, it is massive, and I'm not sure people fully appreciate that. I mean, we're launching 7 additional satellites to get the additional spectrum capable to protect those 200 megahertz that we're going to retain. We're adding compression across all of our media customers. We're installing filters across the U.S. We're installing antennas and new earth stations. It is a huge undertaking, but so far so good. It's going fine. So yeah, a bold move, but I think it was the right move, and I think it will prove to be a good move in terms of collaboration between the telco world and the satellite world as well. It was a discussion, obviously, amongst management and the board. A decision like that, the board was actively involved in that decision, and it was difficult. I mean, we were, I don't think it's any secret. We were hoping that maybe the C-band project would produce, more proceeds for the company to help us work through our balance sheet problems. And it's not that the amount that we're getting is insignificant; it's significant. But ultimately, it came down to 2 things that really forced us to make this decision. And one was the fact that in how the FCC wrote the order for the C-band clearing, it required us to spend over $1 billion of our money without being reimbursed, 1 penny being reimbursed. And that has proven to be true. That's all turned out exactly that way. And so it's $1 billion of output that we had in terms of cash without getting reimbursed. The second thing is that COVID hit right at the same time. And that was not the main factor, but it was a contributing factor to the decision, because with all the services that we had in the in-flight connectivity sector and in the cruise sector, in cruise ships, in all those planes and cruise ships parked, that was a significant reduction of revenue and cash for the company. So those 2 things came together. And although we tried hard to find out-of-court means to restructure, ultimately we decided it was the right thing to do. Obviously, you're always concerned about what is the impact on customers, what's the impact on employees, and your competitive situation. But I have to say, it's very fortunate that the U.S. has the Chapter 11 bankruptcy code, because it is a method for companies to keep operating as normal and to address specific problems. In our case, it was the debt, because the business itself was sound and we had a great operating model, but we had too much debt. So it allowed us to address those things, get it fixed, and move on. And that's exactly what happened. It took 21 months, maybe a little bit longer than we had hoped, but throughout that time, our services stayed at very high levels for our customers. Our relationship with customers was good. Our employee retention was sound. As I said to you, we made an investment in a new business, the commercial aviation business. We continued investing in our satellites. And so, the company came out of that process with a debt reduction from about 16 billion down to about 6. So it was remarkable in terms of what we achieved, and the company is in much sounder financial health at this point.